The following videos are from WriteBrightStation.com. Please note, the writing packets used in each video are only available for those with a membership. For the free printables for this lesson, go to WriteBrightStation.com. From the home page, choose the Assess tab. On the left Assessment menu, go down to Core Knowledge. Select your grade level and select the lesson. The lesson can be printed from this site. Talk to your principal about a site license for your school. Today's passage is titled, How to Eat a Guava. The prompt says, after reading How to Eat a Guava, think about how the guava takes the speaker back to her childhood. Explain what she remembers about guavas in her past and how she views them today. Use information from the passage to support your answer. Follow along as I read How to Eat a Guava. There are guavas at the Shop and Save. I pick one the size of a tennis ball and finger the prickly stem end. It feels familiarly bumpy and firm. The guava is not quite ripe. The skin is still a dark green. I smell it and imagine a pale pink center, the seeds tightly embedded in the flesh. A ripe guava is yellow, although some varieties have a pink tinge. The skin is thick, firm, and sweet. Its heart is bright pink and almost solid with seeds. The most delicious part of the guava surrounds the tiny seeds. If you don't know how to eat a guava, the seeds end up in the crevices between your teeth. When you bite into a ripe guava, your teeth must grip the bumpy surface and sink into the thick edible skin without hitting the center. It takes experience to do this, as it's quite tricky to determine how far beyond the skin the seeds begin. Some years, when the rains have been plentiful and the nights cool, you can bite into a guava and not find many seeds. The guava bushes grow close to the ground, their branches laden with green, then yellow fruit that seem to ripen overnight. These guavas are large and juicy, almost seedless, their roundness enticing you to have one more, just one more, because next year the rains may not come. As children, we didn't always wait for the fruit to ripen. We raided the bushes as soon as the guavas were large enough to bend the branch. A green guava is sour and hard. You bite into it at its widest point because it's easier to grasp with your teeth. You hear the skin, meat, and seeds crunching inside your head, while the inside of your mouth explodes in little spurts of sour. You grimace, your eyes water, and your cheeks disappear as your lips purse into a tight O. But you have another and then another, enjoying the crunchy sounds, the acid taste, the gritty texture of the unripe center. At night, your mother makes you drink castor oil, which she says tastes better than a green guava. That's when you know for sure that you're a child and she has stopped being one. I had my last guava the day we left Puerto Rico. It was large and juicy, almost red in the center, and so fragrant that I didn't want to eat it because I would lose the smell. All the way to the airport, I scratched at it with my teeth, making little dents in the skin, chewing small pieces with my front teeth so I could feel the texture against my tongue, the tiny pink pellets of sweet. Today, I stand before a stack of dark green guavas, each perfectly round and hard, each $1.59. The one in my hand is tempting. It smells faintly of late summer afternoons and hopscotch under the mango tree. But this is autumn in New York, and I am no longer a child. The guava joins its sisters back under the harsh fluorescent lights of the exotic fruit display. I push my cart away toward the apples and pears of my adulthood, their nearly seedless ripeness predictable and bittersweet. We've read the prompt, we've read the passage. What do we do next? Say, read the prompt again. The prompt says, after reading How to Eat a Guava, think about how the guava takes the speaker back to her childhood. Explain what she remembers about guavas in her past and how she views them today. Use information from the passage to support your answer. When we read the prompt again, the first thing we're looking for is the type of writing. What type of writing are we doing today? This is explanatory. When you see the word explain, you know you're doing explanatory. It can also be called expository or informative. This is when you are like a teacher. And in your mind, you are thinking the person reading your essay has never read the article. So you are explaining or teaching them something. When we read the prompt again, the second thing we're looking for is what we're writing about. Today, we're explaining what she remembers about guavas in her past and how she views them today. Let's take a look at the plan. We're going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. We're going to start with the beginning, which is cat. What does the C stand for? Catch. You are catching the reader's attention. Today, we are going to use the announcement strategy for our catch. You might say, start your engine as we race into the world of guavas. Grab your gear as we journey into the world of guavas. The spotlight today is on guavas. On your paper, please indent, start with a capital, and write your catch now. Going back to your plan, it's time for the A. A stands for asking. Looking at the sample essay, I have asked a question. Have you ever tasted a guava? Notice that a question starts with a capital and ends with a question mark. Please write an asking or a question now. Going back to the plan, we've done our catch, asking, and now it's time for the T, which is tell. You tell the reader what you are writing about. You should always look back at the prompt when writing your tell sentence. The prompt says, explain what she remembers about guavas in her past and how she views them today. So we are writing about her past and then how she thinks about guavas today. I've written, the girl in this story remembers guavas in her past, but views them differently today. Notice I didn't answer the question. I just made a statement letting the reader know that the girl remembers the guavas in her past fondly. She thought they were wonderful. But today she views them differently because she decided to leave them and not eat them, and she walked away from them in the store. Those were something that were a part of her childhood, and she chose to keep them in her childhood. So when you're doing your tell sentence, you're not giving specific details. You're just making a statement telling the reader what this essay is about. Again, the girl in this story remembers guavas in her past, but views them differently today. Please write your tell sentence now. Going back to the plan, we have finished our beginning, also called the introduction. You've written a catch, an asking sentence, and told the reader what you're writing about. Let's move on to the middle. We're going to start with AP, which is author's purpose. The author's purpose sentence lets the reader know what the article you read or the story you read was about. You might say, this passage is about guavas. This text talks about guavas. You may say something like, after reading this passage, it is clear that the girl had a wonderful experience with guavas. You might say, in this passage, the author worked hard to help the reader understand more about guavas. The contents of this passage teaches about guavas. This passage is about guavas. On your paper, you need to skip a line. That means leave a blank line. Go to a new line because you're starting a new paragraph. Indent and write an author's purpose sentence now. Going back to the plan, next is fact-finding. Fact-finding is when you go into the passage and you underline the most important things that have something to do with what the prompt is asking. You are like a treasure hunter and you're looking for treasure, not for trash. That's the extra information. The treasure is the most important information. I have done your fact-finding for you. These are the sentences that are underlined that I felt were the most important. In your essay, you are about to tell the readers things that you read, not things that came from your head. You have to write something that says, hey, person reading my paper, I am about to tell you things that I read somewhere, not things that I made up out of my brain. This is called a fact-finding phrase. Say, fact-finding phrase. There are many different fact-finding phrases you can use. Where these X's are, that's where you can say the story, The passage, the source, the article, the text, the selection, all those words can be used interchangeably. You might say, according to the passage, comma. The text reports that. After your period, please write a fact-finding phrase now. Now you can start with your fact-finding. This is when we go into the article and we take what they've written and we re-say it in our own words. That's called paraphrasing. Say paraphrasing. You cannot copy unless you're doing a direct quote. You need to put everything into your own words. At the beginning of the story, Esmeralda is in a Shop and Save, which is a grocery store. And while she's in there, she sees guavas. And these guavas take her back to her childhood in Puerto Rico. In a sentence, I want you to write, you're finishing up your fact-finding phrase according to the passage. She's now a lady, so you can say, a lady goes into a grocery store and sees a guava that takes her back to her childhood in Puerto Rico. Please write something like this now. Going back to our fact-finding, look at paragraph 2. It says, a ripe guava is yellow. Now, on your paper, you cannot write a ripe guava is yellow because this would be plagiarizing. You have to paraphrase it or say it in your own words. Think of how many different ways you could say that sentence. You could say, you know a guava is ripe when it turns yellow. When you see a yellow guava, it means it's ripe. Please write this in your own words as your next sentence now. Let's do some more fact-finding. Let's go down to paragraph 4. Paragraph 4 says, some years when the rains have been plentiful means there's a lot of rain, and the night's cool, you can bite into a guava and not find many seeds. This is telling you that when there's a lot of rain, guavas have less seeds. For your next sentence, put this idea into your own words by telling the reader that when there's a lot of rain, guavas have less seeds. Do this now. Moving on to paragraph 5 and 6. She talks about how, as a child, they didn't always wait for the fruit to ripen. And so when it's not ripe, it's green and it makes it sour and hard. In your own words, explain that the lady in the story did not always wait till the guavas were ripe. She would often eat them when they were still green, which made them sour. Write something like this now. Moving to paragraph 8, we have underlined, I had my last guava the day we left Puerto Rico. I didn't want to eat it because I would lose the smell. In this paragraph, she's talking about how when she left her country, she just held on to this guava and she was savoring it. She was smelling it. She was slowly rubbing it on her teeth because she knew that that would be the last guava that she would have. It was kind of just holding on to those memories. In your next sentence, please explain that the last guava she ever had was when she left Puerto Rico and maybe she was savoring every bite. Write something like this now. Paragraph 9 and 10 talk about how now that she's an adult, she sees these guavas and she has chosen not to eat them. She's chosen this because she's decided to leave those memories in her childhood. And sometimes when we try stuff as an adult, it's not as wonderful as we remember it as a child. So she wanted to keep those memories in her past. So for the last part of this paragraph, explain how now as an adult, she has chosen not to eat the guavas, to leave those in her childhood, and she moves on to the apples and pears. Do this now. You have finished your beginning. You have written your middle. It's time for your end, which is terp. We're going to start with a T, which is a transition word. On your paper, please skip a line, leave a blank line, go to a new line and indent. There are a list of transition words here. As you can see, in conclusion, to sum up, Please write a transition word starting with the capital Now. The first R stands for recap. We're going to finish that transition with a recap. I've written, in short, the speaker in the passage remembers guavas fondly. Please finish your transition with a sentence that recaps an event from the story. Do this now. The next R in TERP stands for retell. You are retelling what we have written about. I've written, they are in her past and she decides that is the best place for them to remain. She chooses to keep guavas in her past. Please write your retell sentence now. Finally, the P stands for punch. You want to punch the author with a memorable last sentence. I've written, next time you see a guava, try it and see how you feel about eating it. Write your punch sentence and then your essay is complete. Great work. Visit writebrightstation.com for more lessons.